Karoline Leavitt had built her life around winning. Losing was not an option for her. But one day, all her strategies, all her power, and years of hard work lost their meaning in the face of a little girl's pale face. In that moment, she realized she needed to save not only Lily's life, but also her own soul. Karoline Leavitt was a brilliant and ambitious woman who had dedicated her life to political strategy and her career. She studied political science in college and quickly rose to become one of the most influential political strategists after graduation. Throughout her career, she had led numerous successful campaigns and was regarded as a genius in crisis management and public relations. However, her passionate commitment to her work gradually overshadowed other aspects of her life, pushing her friendships and even her family ties to the background. She was born to win, and the word failure did not exist in her vocabulary. That was until she met a little girl with a spark of hope in her eyes in a hospital room. Every morning, as she walked through the bustling streets of the city to her office, her thoughts were always on the next meeting, the next campaign, or the next victory. She was born to win. Strategy, planning, and political power dynamics were at the center of her life. That was until she met Lily, an 8-year-old girl battling a rare form of cancer in a hospital room. That day, Karoline made a decision. She would do everything in her power to save Lily's life. But this journey would not only change Lily's life, it would change Karoline's forever. Karoline Leavitt had not planned to visit the hospital that morning. After a busy day at work, she agreed to visit the pediatric oncology ward at the request of an old friend. At first, she thought it would just be a courtesy visit. She would cheer up a few kids and then return to her routine. But as she stepped into the hospital corridors, she realized that a completely different world existed inside. The colorful drawings on the walls, the corners filled with toys, and the cheerful laughter of the children made her forget that this was a place of serious illness. Yet behind every laugh was a battle, a fight for life by children hanging on by a thread. Karoline felt she didn't belong in this world. That was until she entered a room and locked eyes with Lily. Lily's face was pale, but her eyes sparkled with an indescribable light. Despite her tiny frame, she carried herself with a defiant stance, as if challenging the world. A strange warmth filled Karoline's heart. When she introduced herself, Lily blinked excitedly and said, "Your name is so pretty. Karoline sounds like a princess's name." The little girl radiated joy despite her illness, but after a short conversation, when Karoline learned Lily's story, her icy world began to crack. Lily was battling neuroblastoma, a rare and aggressive childhood cancer. Originating from nerve cells, this disease often caused tumors in the abdomen and could spread rapidly to other parts of the body. By the time Lily was diagnosed, the cancer had already progressed, and she had to undergo heavy treatments like chemotherapy, radiation, and even a bone marrow transplant. But for her family, covering the costs of these treatments was becoming increasingly difficult. When her mother, with a trembling voice, told Karoline, "We've tried everything, but we're losing hope," Karoline was overcome with a mix of anger and helplessness. She had spent years managing wealthy campaigns and handling massive budgets. Now, a little girl's life was at risk simply because of financial constraints. At that moment, Karoline made a decision. She would fight for Lily. But this fight wasn't just about money. It was the beginning of her own inner journey. The next day, when Karoline returned to her office, her mind was consumed by one thing. Meetings, campaigns, election strategies, all of it faded into the background. Lily's bright eyes wouldn't leave her thoughts. She had organized many fundraising campaigns for political image management before, but this time was different. She decided to launch a campaign called Hope for Lily. The first step was sharing a video on social media, an emotional video telling Lily's story, showcasing her smiling face and her spirit. When the video was released, it had a much greater impact than she had anticipated. Thousands of people began sharing Lily's story. But with success came doubt. Some people began questioning Karoline's intentions. At first, comments like, "Is this just a PR stunt?" started circulating on social media. Then, a major news outlet published an article scrutinizing Karoline's past political connections. Titled, "How Credible is a Strategist Suddenly Turning to Philanthropy?" The article sparked public debate. Even a commentator on a television show asked, "Could there be another agenda behind this campaign?" Fueling more skepticism. Karoline had to face these accusations head-on. "Is this just a PR stunt?" some asked. Others distrusted her because of her political background. But Karoline didn't let the criticism deter her. For her, the only thing that mattered was saving Lily's life. However, the real challenges were just beginning. As the campaign grew, Karoline received an anonymous email. The message read, "This is a scam. You're deceiving people." Soon, some media outlets picked up the claim. The campaign was suddenly under suspicion. All of Karoline's efforts could have been in vain. But she didn't give up. She immediately held a press conference, transparently sharing Lily's medical records and treatment process. She also disclosed the campaign's financial status, providing documentation for all expenses. This move restored trust, and the campaign grew even stronger. The treatment process was long and grueling. Lily's body struggled to endure the heavy chemotherapy. Nausea, hair loss, and endless fatigue made each day harder. Doctors constantly adjusted her medications to minimize side effects, but Lily's morale became the biggest determining factor. Karoline visited the hospital every day to be by her side. Over time, witnessing the ups and downs of Lily's recovery left deep marks on Karoline's soul. One day, as she held Lily's hand, the little girl said, "You know, sometimes I get scared, but when you're here, I feel stronger." Tears filled Karoline's eyes. Lily's resilience and joy became her guiding light, even in the darkest moments. As Lily's body endured the harsh chemotherapy, Karoline began to feel emotionally drained. Watching the little girl writhe in pain each time was harder than any political challenge she had faced. But Lily never lost hope. "You know, Karoline, when I grow up I want to be a strong woman like you," she said once, bringing tears to Karoline's eyes. This was the most important battle of her life. Days and weeks passed. Then, one morning, the doctors delivered the good news. Lily's cancer cells were starting to shrink. Karoline couldn't believe her ears. Finally, her efforts were paying off. But the greatest victory came the day Lily was discharged. As she hugged Karoline tightly and said, "You're my hero," Karoline felt for the first time that she had truly accomplished something. She had not only saved Lily's life, but also her own soul. This experience became a turning point for Karoline. She was no longer just a political strategist. She was now a messenger of hope. The Hope for Lily campaign didn't just change one child's life, it inspired hundreds. Karoline founded a charity called Lily's Hope, which provided financial and medical support to children battling cancer, as well as guidance programs and support groups for their families. Among its first projects were creating special educational opportunities for children undergoing treatment and improving hospital conditions. Karoline saw this foundation not just as a charity but as a community that rekindled hope. She dedicated her life to this cause. Now victory was no longer measured by elections won or campaigns run. It was measured by lives saved. Lily had taught her the true meaning of life. Karoline Leavitt's hopeful journey with Lily reminded us once again that one person's faith and determination can change the world. If this story inspired you, share your thoughts in the comments. If you, like Karoline, want to make a difference, let's discuss what we can do for children battling cancer. Remember, each of us can be a messenger of hope.